Hey folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to another episode of the Crusader Kings 2 Succession game as the Wendish Empire. Now, this, my particular segment of the Crusader Kings Succession game has gone on for quite some time, and I really needed to get it wrapped up because I got a whole lot of other things on the schedule. So I said, you know what, instead of doing the play-by-play commentary as I go, what I was going to do is just sit down and hammer through the rest of my King's lifetime, and then do it as a time-lapse. So this is what you're looking at here. This is an 8 times speed-up. I was actually really surprised how much life there was left in this goddamn king. I mean, I guess it helps when he's got so many health traits, but I was leading practically every single battle as often and frequently as I could. Not, you know, I wasn't trying to explicitly commit suicide, but I was trying to maybe hurry the process along. Well, as you'll see in this video, my king, Quill18 the Wise of the Wendish Empire, grows to be, well, quite ancient. He never loses the, or no, it's not the Wise, he's the Monk. That's right, I guess because I've run so many holy wars. Now, it is interesting, given the fact that Quill18 was prophesied to perhaps be possessed. But that has actually never, ever come into play. I think what possess gives you something like -1 to diplomacy or something like that, and that was pretty much the only impact of that trait. I was quite disappointed that we never got an event about it. For all I know, it happened earlier on in his youth before he became the emperor. I don't know, so those events may have triggered then, because there certainly wasn't anything for us at this time. In fact, I suppose the possession trait may be something that our enemies, the Muslims, the Christians, the Norse, may have attributed to us, since all we've done in our lifetime is lead holy war after holy war after holy war, vastly increasing the holdings of the Wendish Empire. Our diplomacy and relations with everyone has been such that things have gone pretty swimmingly. I think there's been the occasional little independence war, but nothing big. And part of that is, you know, as certain other people might play in a way where they, say, revoke all the kingly titles, for example. And to me, I like playing, this is a feudal simulator. I want to play the feudal system. To me, that's really important. And frankly, I've been used to playing the CK2 Plus mod, which dramatically lowers your domain limit, which dramatically worsens any sort of tyrannical rulership actions. And you really have to play within that feudal system a lot more. And I think it's just more fun. One of my complaints about this particular session, and it's not, you know, it's not a real significant complaint, it's just that it's almost gotten too easy that is kind of boring, at least from a commentary point of view. I was still sitting here having lots and lots of fun playing this game. I had Breaking Bad on Netflix on my second monitor as I went through all of these. And pretty much kept going pretty effectively. I mean, one of the things I like about games is I'm a sucker for the early game. I know I've talked about this before, but I like beginnings. I like that blank slate. I like the first 100 turns of Civ 5 way more than the last 100 turns of Civ 5, even though a lot more happens in those final 100 because you've got more cities, more units, more stuff going around. I like the sense of exploration. I like settling that first city and not knowing exactly what's going to happen. And also, I don't like some of the extreme micromanagement that tends to happen in most late games for most games, or at least most strategy games anyway, from Civ to all the Paradox titles, for example. And so, especially with such a strong empire, and you know, if you're playing it, I don't know, if you're playing it really carefully so that everything goes as well as possible, it can take some of the interesting things out of it, right? Whereas if you kind of leave things, you know, you let some of the NPCs gain power, then it can lead to really interesting situations. So in my particular playthrough, when I took over, you know, there was lots and lots of kingly titles, and I certainly kept them. I think near to the end of this video, you might see me do, or maybe I've already started, I'm not sure, you might see me do some revocations of king-level titles. So I pace myself. I don't end up taking all of them, but I know that Kelvin, who follows me, is kind of a fan of doing that kind of thing, so whatever. It does make the game a hell of a lot easier. It's just more boring and less interesting, in my opinion. So anyway, so I do a little bit of that right at the end to try to set things up in a way that he's going to be more comfortable. Unfortunately for Kelvin, he's going to be taking over a relatively aged heir, because I lived so long. So my successor, I think he's, well, we'll see what it looks like at the end of the video, but I'm pretty sure he's in his 50s when he finally ascends to the imperial throne. So, but, you know, he's got great traits. He's both a genius and strong, which is really stupendous, and hopefully that'll go well. So here we've got another holy war going on against one of the Muslim nations. And they're certainly interesting to fight in that they can muster a lot of troops, but it's really been very little threat whatsoever. You know, even if you lose a few battles here and there at the start when you're still organizing your army, then it's not going to matter because you can turn around it pretty heavy duty. In one of these wars, near the end of it, or maybe when I'm setting up for a war, I think this is going to be much later in the video, but I grab a 30k stack of retinue, and I mean to merge them, like it's like a 28k stack and a 2k stack, and I mean to merge them, and instead I click the disband button, and then I realize what I'm doing, and all of a sudden I panic, and in the window that asks, you know, are you sure you want to disband it? I go, no, and then I click yes instead, because my hand slipped, and so I disband a 30k stack of retinue, and then instantly rebuild it, and it has no impact whatsoever because the game is just ridiculous. Look, take a look at the top right corner. Look how much money I've got, and this will never go down. In fact, it'll just continue to go up and up and up and up. And there's lots of things I could be doing with this money in like really crazy abusive ways. But, you know, where's the fun in that? I do use it later on when I do start doing the revocation of the king titles. I do throw out a lot of bribes just to try to keep people in shape. And I think there was at least one case where I really needed to get someone dead right away. So I just like blew like 10 assassination attempts in a row, like the one through the diplomacy menu as opposed to the actual plotting, because I wanted to make sure that it happened. Or I couldn't get enough plotters to come with me. That's what it was, for whatever reason. I can't remember who it was. I don't remember if it was one of my... I think maybe after I revoked the kingdom stuff, maybe someone was like really working a dangerous faction, and I sort of start assassinating my way down the list of anyone who's running any significant faction against me. Unfortunately, some of those people even liked me. It was really awkward. It's like, you're leading a faction against me, and we've got a +70 relation. All right, well, that sucks. Oh yeah, here you go. You can start seeing me do that kind of thing here in some of these screens that are just flying by. But, you know, the general sense is certainly, I guess, I don't know, in my old age, I started to become more and more tyrannical. But, you know, you're entitled to do that. Things change. I certainly look a lot older. This now, my little thumbnail in the top left corner has changed, but I think we're going to see it transform yet one more time before we go through here. I mean, we're not even a third way through this video, and already, I mean, the years continue to go flying by. One of the other things I didn't notice if it happened yet. No, not yet. But I think I'm about to do a little bit of war against Sweden here. I'm not sure. But very soon, the Kingdom of Britannia forms. I think Scotland and Sweden merge into the Empire rather, of Britannia. And for a while, it has me a little bit scared. There we go. I've got a holy war going on. And I believe this is the only independence war that happens. And it's... or at least the only significant one. And this one was relatively significant. It took a while to beat people down a little bit. And it sucks that it was in the middle of a very large holy war. But of course, you know, the faction people are smart. They're going to strike when that sort of thing happens. But I wasn't scared. I was mostly just like, all right, this actually would have been a good place to record with commentary. But at the same time, how often can I say, well, I'm going to move these troops from here to here, and then from here to here, and I'm going to siege here. And especially the rushing, because it's not... There's not a lot of waiting for the sieges. It's mostly just like, okay, let the time pass, pause, rush the siege, let the time pass, pause, rush the siege. And yeah, I don't know. I do like Crusader Kings, and I think it leads to great stories for commentaries. But I think with an empire this size, there's a limit to what that can be. I'm sure we'll revisit CK2 at some point in the future, especially next time there's an expansion. But yeah, I don't know. And in fact, there is another Crusader Kings 2 game going on right now. That's the game with, well, some of the same people. Arumba, Northern Lion, Mathis? Yeah, and we're doing, I don't know, they probably have the Empire of Britannia formed in that game at this point, actually. So for all I know, by the time I get it, I'll have the same complaints about, like, oh, it's way too easy now. I want to go back to where, like, I'm just an earl fighting a war against an entire kingdom or something like that. Because, I don't know, apparently I'm a bit of a masochist. But that's not a masochist. That's fun and challenging. You know, everyone finds different ways to increase the difficulty of their games in some way, right? You want to play it to the point where it's a challenge, but different people have different ways of ensuring that to be the case. I mean, when you're playing something like Europa, for example, sometimes the challenge is to take a very small nation, a one-province minor nation, and you know, your goal may not be world domination. Your goal might just be to survive until the end of the game. You know, maybe grab an extra few provinces here or there, or if you're really good, maybe you can, you know, go from that to taking over half of Europe. That, you know, you can do some very, very impressive things, but depending on what you want to do and what your personal challenges are, there's different stuff. So at this point, we've reached all the way to the eastern edge of the map, the skirmishes here are kind of annoying. Like, there's a few different ways, of course, that we can gain territory there. You know, we could invite people who have got claims and press those claims. Some of them would be more or less awkward to do with the Muslims. But I felt like thematically the Holy Wars were a great way to keep going. At least you get a full duchy at a time. That's pretty solid. The biggest pain in the ass is just forming and breaking up your army every time. So I guess if I could have found some good kingdom-level titles to invite a claimant and then give them a county and then press that claim, that probably would have made things go a little bit faster. But I don't know. I like the Holy War theme. And I do like that you claim like all the properties and you can redistribute them any way you want. And that's it. A lot of these videos I find, like, the battle itself was relatively relaxed. Oh yeah, see, even that rebellion has ended by now. The battles themselves are relatively relaxed. Then all you're doing is watching you ransom off all the people that you captured during the sieges and then distributing the various land holdings afterwards. So, eesh. Looks like I just, some more of my sons have come up of age, so I've spread out the provinces and given them a holding, which, you know, might come and bite things later in the ass, but probably not too much. I mean, they only have a county. They're not going to be that powerful, and their stats are not terribly impressive, too, so I'm sure that my one true chosen heir shouldn't have too much of a problem to deal with all that at all. So yeah, what else to talk about? I don't know. Just looking here, one thing that bugs me is for the longest time, and in fact, possibly still at the end of the game, I'm not sure, there may have still been a few pockets here and there of provinces within my empire that didn't belong there. And it does drive me crazy, but the problem is, like, I couldn't... these other wars are so much more tempting in that you can grab, you know, 4 or 5 provinces at once sometimes. And so just to blot out the little standalone ones, just to clean up your borders, can sometimes be a little less productive. But I think I do mostly clean them up at some point, just because it looks so much damn better to have done that. Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. Even, you know, it's funny that even with only 30 minutes to fill as opposed to 4 hours, I'm still a little hard-pressed to think of things to talk about within the context of this game. So we might go back to talking about beginnings and endings. I know that part of it is that I am a relatively lazy player when it comes to these things. Again, if I take the advantage of civilization, I end up automating my workers quite often. And one of the things I like about playing EU as opposed to Crusader Kings is, of course, and I guess maybe it's this late game big empire play. I love the levy system in Crusader Kings. You know, raising of troops. It's thematically, it works. Thematically it makes sense, and it actually works relatively well when you've got a small amount of land. It adds an interesting game mechanic of, okay, I'm going to raise my troops now. Now, all these are not going to have the morale. They're not going to be organized yet. That means they're vulnerable, and you're doing this and that. But in these large empires, it's just like box selecting huge numbers of troops and waiting for them to get together and merge them, and then advance them to the actual front line, and then, you know, repeat that every single time you go to war. And so one of the nice advantages of late game EU4 is that you don't have to worry about that quite as much. Now, if you do have a proper empire in EU that spans, you know, multiple continents, then it can be a little bit of a pain to manage your militaries that spread out around the world. We certainly had that experience in the Castile game, where I had plenty of troops over in the New World when I was fighting a war with France. And, you know, that can be a bit of a pain if you need to shuttle them around, for example. So there's a little bit of that, and certainly many games have that. I mean, I like StarCraft 2, but a lot, but I mostly like the opening phases again. I like building up that initial economy and choosing which strategy I'm going to go, but controlling late game armies when you're at 200 supply, I can take it or leave it. So, So I don't think you can do anything about that in Crusader Kings, unfortunately, unless there's a DLC that dramatically changes the way that the armies work in these large empires, or gives you some other way of marshaling your troops, or putting some sort of rally point, or I don't know what. Actually, the rally point would be kind of cool, is if you could put down a few flags, and every time you raise your levies, they will automatically walk to the nearest rally flag. So you could put, like, you know, 2 or 3 of them around the front of the war, and then hit levy troops or raise levies and have them all walk towards those flags. That would be great. Or if there was a way to like box select a bunch of provinces and only raise the levies there, because part of the problem is here. Like, I know if I raise all my levies, like if my retinue and personal levies aren't enough, so I need to raise the vassal levies, anyway. You know, I can go kind of province by province, or look for the duke or kingdom level crest, that's the word I'm looking for, on the map. And, you know, that I use that a lot, but it's not perfect. Or, yeah, the alternative is I have to raise everything and then find the people that are way too far away to help and box select them and just lower them. And, you know, it's still a little bit tedious, so I don't know. Maybe in case of empires, and I think maybe the problem is just that Crusader Kings doesn't scale to the empire level the same way and still have it be interesting. You know, it's perfect when we're all talking about little kingdoms. It's just when these huge blobs come up, then it gets just a little wacky, I guess, is the problem. Wow, we've cut into Europe quite a bit. And here, I think I'm filling in some holes finally. I'm not sure. Although I've got a fair number of them actually filled in pretty well. I can't remember if in Eastern Europe there's still that like 1 or 2 pink provinces that I'm gonna have to clean up there. I'm really not sure. So at this point, my king, he's still been, I think he's still been married to the same wife forever and ever and ever. If I recall correctly, though, at some point in the video, my wife dies, and then I decide to, whether to get remarried or not. And I decide to do it for the stats, if nothing else. It's certainly a good idea. I can't remember what I went looking for. I think I went looking for someone just with decent stats. I didn't really care about genetics that much. And I believe we popped out a few more kids. You know, depending on your succession laws can always be a problem. Look at this, like the huge automatic plotting. Of like, I got many plots that were like above 1500% plot power. And, you know, sometimes you see those insane numbers if you get someone's, I don't know, spy master on your side or something, but it's still relatively uncommon, so it is nice. You're releasing a bunch of people step by step by step. Pain in the ass. These big wars. I still want a bulk release button there. And that's it. I find that the things that bug me about CK2 are entirely limited to very large empire play. Other than that, it's fine. I mean, micromanaging, releasing your prisoners is fine and groovy. If you've got a small empire, moving your troops around is fine and groovy. Yeah, that's true. Even a small empire is totally fine. But yeah, above that, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting here just to see what can be done when you have, you know, a bunch of people with different play styles, but who are certainly very experienced at CK2, really working the system as much as possible. Especially considering we did start with a single county. And that's a pretty explosive growth. Now, as I recall, I'm trying to remember exactly how much I got done my last time. Felt like I was having a bit of a hard time, because it was that fringe of, we've got to fight I'm trying to remember, did we reform? Yeah. So we need to fight all the old Slavic, but we didn't have all the holy sites, or I don't remember what. So I know that, like, and there were some big powers in Europe at the time that had to be busted up in very tiny chunks, like big Catholic powers in terms of East and West Francia. So there was risk, and this time there was not really risk. It became mostly a game of speed, and I didn't speed through it as much as I could. I probably could have taken, you know, 50% more territory than I ended up taking in this particular lifespan, just because micromanaging all the armies and stuff was just a pain. I probably should have had more simultaneous wars, but I don't know, did pretty decent, even right up until the end there, where I was basically, all I was doing is my retinue. I wasn't even bothering raising any levies at all. I was just using my retinues and ending a war in, you know, a couple of siege provinces, and boom, you got an entire new duchy of stuff at you. And it was hard for even the large Muslim nations to fight back. You know, I'm sure the technology level and leadership pool and all that certainly played a large, or had a large impact there. I was pretty consistent about spending money to improve my domain as well, so my personal levies were just stupendously good, and will continue to be. I don't remember what the tech levels in Constantinople are right now, but they're above 20. I think it's something like, you know, the 23 to 26 range, depending on the level. Looks like we're just cleaning up some peasants. And yeah, the the revolts were a bit of a pain from time to time. Or again, just another annoyance. And I believe CK2 lacks the automated feature for that. Yeah, here I go, going through some more factions. There's lots of different ways to deal with these, but you know, that's the way I chose. Oh, I also like to play at the High Crown Authority, which on the Emperor level you may not need as much because you can't actually stop your vassals from warring against each other. But I don't know, I always like the sound of it. Feels cool to me. And I mean, yeah, it's -10 to your relations with your vassal, but at this point, who cares, right? I'm doing pretty good at keeping down the modifiers otherwise, just having the 2 duchies, for example. In fact, the negative modifiers become more of an issue when I was revoking the titles. Because I can't remember. I know I went up, it's -40 per, and I know that I did in pairs. I may have gone up to like -120 at one point, but I think that faded away pretty quickly as maybe, I don't know, people were killed or the years went by, or I'm not sure what. And at -80, it was pretty manageable. So again, as long as I was keeping an eye on the faction list and trimming down the threats from time to time, the -80 was fine. I know that right after Quill18's death, I checked the vassal screen. First of all, I had like well over 200 direct vassals, which is pretty awesome. Direct? Indirect? I'm not sure, but well over 200 vassals in any case. And the vast majority of them were quite happy. There were a couple of stragglers down at the bottom of the list, and those were probably people who were due to be purged for other reasons as well. But like even here on these faction screens, you can see that all the relations are in the green. It's just, you know, mostly independence for having such a damn large empire. There we go. So we've got Britannia here, and I was like, oh, this might be a little threatening. And I did send a few assassinations towards the Emperor or Empress of Britannia, just to try to weaken them, see if we could like get them to break up again. Not that they were really going to be a threat, but I figured, oh, this is something fine to do. Yeah, they're definitely, you know, they're big. I'll give them that, but not as big as the Wendish Empire, and certainly not as developed as well. Like, we had far more counties, but we just had massively more manpower and better technology in general. So that went a long way to getting things done. Lots of abilities to fabricate titles, fabricate... I was going to say, no, also claim titles. Not claim titles, press claims, right? So, oh yeah, so I've remarried at this point because my wife is pregnant. And I didn't really care about doing that. The ducal and kingdom titles, I'm not sure if we had the ability to build a kingdom title. I'm not sure. But certainly lots and lots of duchies were offered, and I didn't see any reason to do that. We'd just have to disperse the duchy titles and create dukes. I mean, again, if the AI want to create those titles, fine. I did not go and destroy any kingdom titles. And I'm not sure that it's a good idea to. Because the AI will go ahead and recreate some of those, and then, you know, go back and recreate them, and you know, use their kingdom de jour claims to grab more vessels here and there, as opposed to if you just keep them for yourself, it's fine. I don't think having multiple kingdom titles gives you a relationship hit like the duchies. I haven't double checked, but I'm pretty sure no, because I think by the end of this video I've got like 6 kingdom titles, and it's all totally fine. And again, if I was just playing for myself, I wouldn't be doing that kind of thing, but some people like to do that, so what the hell. We'll try to make them happy, which probably won't happen, but moving on. Well, one of the things that I still have questions about is what, you know, my composition of my retinue should have been. I was using the Hussars a lot since they're my specific cultural unit, and, you know, you're always going to get a bit of a bonus for that, but I didn't want an army that was entirely composed of cavalry, obviously, so I was throwing in some heavy infantry, some archers, some pikemen from time to time, just to try to mix it up. They are nice for, well, at least the light cavalry especially, are really good in the pursuit phase, so every time you cause an army to break and run, the more light cavalry you have, especially in your army, the more fatalities they will have during the escape, so you're able to just actually wipe out stacks a lot more effectively, and that, you know, it's pretty handy there. But, oh, looks like my wife is pregnant yet again. I'm looking at my outliner here. It looks like I had someone flagged as a character of special interest, but I don't know who that was or why that was. That character was flagged before this time-lapse started, I believe, and I don't think I ever went back to it. It looks like Chancellor's Idol, which is not good. I really should have done something about that. In fact, I think at some point I just assigned him to try to improve diplomacy with a king somewhere or something like that. Oh, yeah, see, I'm revoking titles right there. because it's not like I really had to fabricate claims or anything. I had a valid CB on everyone I ever wanted to go to war with, because we're basically the only Slavic nation, like proper Slavic. So I could holy war anyone I wanted, and if it was just a single province that I cared about, then I could also do a conquest, and that was all good and fine. There's another, I was gonna say another really big war here, but you can see I'm actually like lowering a whole lot of levies for convenience, just to see how it goes. I still haven't played a Muslim nation. And I really have to do that at some point. I want to see what the decadence features are like, different things like that. I also really, really want to revisit the trade republics, the merchant republics, since there have been a lot of patches, a lot of changes that radically modify how they work from the Venice playthrough. And I don't think I'm going to let's play those, but I just want to play them more. So yeah, we're finally coming up to an end. About 8 minutes left of the video. Trying to remember exactly where these borders come up. Right at the end of the video, I will have a side-by-side comparison, or not side-by-side, but a flip back and forth between my ending map and my starting map. We'll go back and forth a couple of times just to see how much it grew. And it felt pretty good to look at that. I mean, it is a little bit distorted in that the stuff to the far, like, northeast, the provinces there are much, much larger than the ones, for example, right here you can see on the screen around Constantinople. So, you know, you might not see as much movement here in the Mediterranean, but it means a lot more in terms of actual number of provinces claimed. Oh, so the tech levels here tend to be pretty good as opposed to the north. Not that I was really double-checking those too much. So I talked about the Chancellor. The other things I tend to do with my other guys is mostly still research technology. Sometimes in Constantinople, sometimes in another province if the construction potential was capped. I don't think I micromanage them as much as I could have, but again, you know, cares. Oh, I bet you that was right when I disbanded my retinue here. I'm looking at my character, or me, just mass buying tons and tons of retinue, and you've seen a moment ago in the outline are all the size 1 armies. So, oops, that was a mistake. But yeah, who cares? I'm up above 60k gold. And that's the thing, even if we'd gotten in some horrible rebellion status here, I could have afforded to instantly buy every single mercenary on the table and field like just a monstrously large army. So wasn't really concerned with anything being a threat to me whatsoever. So can you change the color of your empire? I know there's a lot of things you can customize now, but you know, it would have been cool to change from this I don't know, this rusty red, I'm not even sure how to describe this, to like, I really like a deep blue. Like, I do like the color of France, for example, in the Europa games especially. It's got a really nice, deep, rich, kind of jewel tone blue that I think is really, really stunning, and it would have been cool to be able to switch your color to that. I'm not sure that you can. I think the colors are locked to the culture of your primary title. So you can change colors by changing your titles, but I think that's about it. If there's anything else that would potentially be new to me. I do see a blob of blue over on the left. Has France had popped back out? No, I think there's just a... No, yeah, it's just some part of the... I'm trying to remember. I think the Sunni are in the west of Europe, and it's the Shiite here in the Middle East. I can't remember one or the other, but I bet you they're having some sort of civil war. Actually, it did look like Bourbon maybe had popped out as a duchy. We've got Lombardy as well. So it's kind of interesting to see those titles re-pop up. Because most things do get renamed culturally, so I'm not sure if that's what the duchy is still called when an Islam nation controls the area, or if we had a resurgent of, I don't know, some sort of like Catholic or something. I'm not even sure Catholics exist anymore in this game, actually. That's one of the things I failed to do, is double check the religion map to see if there's any Christianity left whatsoever. Because I'm not sure. There might be individual provinces, but I'm not sure that any nations still have it, other than the case of these little independence wars. So my king's looking, or my emperor's looking that much more haggard at this point. And again, I was leading a fair number of battles. Like, I wasn't taking my guy, if I was raising my personal levy up, I wasn't taking him off of the leadership position. And I know there was a couple of times, in fact, earlier in this video, where I think I'd even found my king leading an army that he was going to lose, like a stack of 8k troops against a stack of 20,000 Islam troops, but... and he did lose those battles, but he didn't get captured. I think he got wounded a couple more times, and I think I went into this video already scarred, but I think he ended up getting scarred like twice more or something. Never did get maimed, never did get significantly damaged. Even when he died, which happens relatively soon near the end of this video, I don't think he was ill. I don't think there was anything going on like that. I think he was just old. And I'm trying to remember what age he was. I think he was in his high 70s. I think I try to keep it on screen a little bit longer so that we can see at some point near the end, but I'm not 100% sure, so I apologize for that. You do keep an eye out if I click on my character screen. We'll see what age he's at that point. Well, actually, when we get right to the end of the video, when I do the flip back and forth between the starting, the initial save and the ending save, you guys will be able to compare the starting and end years at that point and see exactly how far we got. But I was pretty young when I took the throne, so yeah, it was a very, very long reign. And during that time, I cannot say that the Wendish Empire saw peace, but its own lands went relatively unscathed. It was certainly a time of prosperity, certainly a time of great wealth, at least for the emperor himself. You know, plenty of men marched off to war, and plenty of men got killed, but I like to think that a lot of money was sent back to their family. Oh, here we are playing the release game again, trying to, you know, rip through those as quickly as possible. And it's not like I need the money of the ransom at this point, so it's a wonder that it didn't just go through bulk releasing. But still, I was mostly checking to see if it was possible to get ransoms wherever I could, just because, I don't know, I couldn't help it. But let me tell you, if there had been a button that just says release all, I would have used it. I would have like scanned through the list, anyone I want to like banish or execute first, any really high titles like a king or something that I could ransom, then I might have done that, and then I would have just bulk done everything else. We do have a crusade, well, I don't know, some sort of official holy war going on right now for Kumanya? I can't remember for what it was. I did not really participate directly in that. I was like, nah, I got my own things going on. I can't remember where it was. I may have contributed. I can't remember. I may have moved troops there. I did double check at some point to see where it was and to see if I wanted to send troops. And I may have. I may not have. I don't remember. Certainly can get a lot of territory from a crusade, so I have a hard time imagining that it didn't do anything for it, but I may not have, because again, lazy, single-minded, and again, busy watching Breaking Bad on the second monitor and seeing what all that's about, because I was new to the series. So it was nice to actually spend an evening watching TV. It's not something I usually do, so I was spoiling myself here with the massive time lapse that you're seeing here, because there was a lot of gameplay left here, and I was at the end especially, I was really happy that I did it this way. I know some people might want like every single little excruciating detail of the affair, but in this case there was just way too much gameplay left. If I commentated all this, it wouldn't have been 4 hours of gameplay. It would have been 8, 10, 12, something like that. And as far as I'm concerned, the channel, oh look at that, Sweden is broken off of Britannia. As far as I'm concerned, the channel's already like far behind my scheduled programming that I wanted to have going on at this point, so anything we could do to get a little bit caught up is fine in my books. So yeah, we're gonna grab a little bit more of Sweden here. Well, actually, I guess, trying to think, compared to like EU4 or something like that, we don't have any of Sweden at this point, I think. No, and now we do. Because when I'm thinking of something like EU, that bottom tip there does start in Denmark's control. Heading out places again. And kind of an awkward number for the domain limit is that I had 9 of 9, but I really only had 8 places that were really, really improved, so that 9th item kept changing a lot. And I could have given it some love, I suppose, and built some improvements there. I certainly had enough money, and maybe I should have, but I wanted to avoid making my my other vassals like substantially more powerful. And we're very close to coming to an end here. Looks like I'm taking a little bit more of Europe. I think right after I end this war, I think we're about to die, if I recall correctly. I'm just reorganizing my troops. And I remember it was a good time because I keep feeling like I'm handing off these saves in the middle of some sort of massive war for some reason. There we go. 82 years old, died a natural death, and passing on the emperorship to Emperor Calvin I. Doing a quick save here, double checking some stats, seeing how many siblings he's got, checking, yeah, and like, oh wow, he's gonna have a few vassals that hate him here or there, but you can probably take care of that. Got lots and lots and lots of money in the bank. And yeah, we're going to do the switch here. So this is the end. This is how the Empire was when it started, and again at the end. And do pause in both and compare. We certainly grew a lot. The Wendish Empire really spans a lot of territory, and that's it. See you next time. Bye-bye.